Have you ever felt like there is an invisible ceiling pressing down on your life? You wake up at 7:15 in the morning, you put in the hours, you grind until 6:45 in the evening, but deep down, you feel like you are just playing a part. You're terrified that one day, someone is going to realize you aren't as smart or as capable as they think you are. You avoid the hard projects because, what if I fail? And you stay in your comfort zone because it's safe here. Today, we are diving into Mindset, The New Psychology of Success by Carol S. Dweck. This book isn't just about positive thinking. It is a clinical blueprint for shattering that invisible ceiling and fulfilling your true potential. Stick with me until the very end, because I am going to reveal the one specific shift in perspective, a single word, that turns every failure you've ever had into a roadmap for your future. If you skip even a minute, you might miss the very tool that stops you from spinning your wheels forever. Our mental energy is the most finite resource we possess. Carol Dweck argues that most of us waste our entire lives' worth of potential because we focus on validation instead of growth. We spend our days trying to prove how smart, talented, or natural we are, which actually freezes us in place. But what if you could rewire your brain to view every challenge, every setback, and every burnt piece of toast at 8:15 in the morning as fuel for a better version of yourself? Productivity isn't about doing more tasks. It is about becoming the person who is psychologically equipped to handle the right things. The core philosophy here is that your qualities aren't carved in stone. Once you realize that your brain is a muscle that thrives on the good struggle, the world stops being a place where you are judged and starts being a place where you are built. Lesson 1. The map of your reality, why your internal monologue is a master architect. Picture this. It is 7:45 on a rainy Tuesday morning. You are standing in your kitchen, the smell of burnt toast hanging in the air, and you just realized you missed a critical email from your boss. In that split second, a voice in your head speaks. It doesn't just narrate, it judges. For some of you, that voice says, "I am such an idiot. I always screw these things up. I'm just not cut out for this level of responsibility." For others, the voice says, "That was a mistake. I need to fix this, apologize, and figure out a better notification system so it doesn't happen again." That tiny, internal fork in the road, that is the difference between a life lived in a cage and a life lived in an open field. Most of us go through our entire existence believing that our thoughts are just reflections of reality, like a mirror showing us the truth of who we are. But Carol Dweck's research proves that your mindset isn't the mirror, it is the architect. It is the invisible hand drawing the blueprints of what you believe you can achieve, who you believe you can love, and how much genius you think you were born with. We are about to go on a deep dive into the architecture of your daily life to see where you have been accidentally building walls where there should be windows. Imagine you are back in school, perhaps in a math class at 10:15 in the morning. The teacher hands back a test, and there it is, a bright red grade that is far lower than you expected. If you are operating from a fixed mindset, that piece of paper isn't just a grade, it is a DNA test. It tells you that you have reached the ceiling of your intelligence. You feel a physical weight in your chest because, in your world, talent is a fixed well. If the well is dry today, it will be dry forever. You start to look at the person next to you who got an A, and you don't feel inspired. You feel threatened. Their success is a spotlight on your deficiency. You might even find yourself wanting to cheat or hide the grade because, in a fixed world, your only job is to look smart at all costs. Failure is a death sentence to your ego. This is the open loop of the fixed mindset, a constant, exhausting cycle of trying to prove you are enough, while living in terror that the world will eventually find out you are not. You are playing a game of identity defense instead of skill acquisition, and it is draining your battery before the day has even truly begun. Now let's shift the camera lens. Let's look at that same situation through the growth mindset. The grade is still low, the rain is still falling, and the toast is still burnt. But the internal monologue has shifted from "who am I?" to "what do I do next?" In this reality, your brain is like a muscle that strengthens with every difficult problem you solve. The A student next to you isn't a threat. they are a resource. You find yourself wondering what study method they used or what resources they found that you missed. You see the red marks on your paper as a treasure map. Each mistake is a specific coordinate telling you exactly where you need to put in more work. You aren't bad at math. You are currently in the process of learning this specific type of math. This shift seems subtle, but it changes your neurochemistry. When you believe you can grow, your brain's error monitoring system stays active and engaged. When you believe your traits are fixed, your brain literally shuts down when it encounters a mistake, because it views the error as an insult rather than an instruction. How do you actually use this tonight at 6:30 when you get home from work, or tomorrow morning at 8:45 when you face a difficult conversation? You start by becoming a mindset detective. You have to catch yourself in the act of being fixed. Whenever you feel defensive, whenever you feel the urge to blame someone else for a mistake, or whenever you feel that "I'm not good at this" thought creep in, stop. Take a breath. Recognize that your fixed mindset is trying to protect you from the pain of being imperfect. Thank it for its concern, and then consciously flip the script. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? What is a different strategy I haven't tried yet? This is not about toxic positivity. It is about clinical reality. You are a biological machine designed for adaptation. By choosing the growth mindset, you are finally giving your brain permission to do the job it was built for. As we move through the rest of this summary, keep this lesson 1 in mind as the foundation for everything else. If you don't change the map, it doesn't matter how fast you run. You'll still be headed toward the same dead end. Stick with me until the very end of this summary, because once we layer the next 6 lessons on top of this one, you won't just be looking at a new way to think. You will be looking at a completely different version of your future. We are moving from the what to the how, and the next chapter on the power of yet is where the real magic begins to happen in your daily habits. Lesson 2, the power of yet, the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. Imagine it is 8:45 on a Thursday evening. You are sitting at your desk, the glow of the computer monitor illuminating the frustration etched into your face. You have been trying to master a new software, a new language, or perhaps a complex financial spreadsheet for 3 hours. The clock ticks to 8:46, then 8:47, and with every passing minute that heavy, familiar thought begins to settle in your gut like lead. I just can't do this. It feels like a final verdict. It feels like a wall that has suddenly dropped from the ceiling, blocking your path, telling you to turn around and go back to what is safe and easy. But what if I told you that the only thing standing between you and mastery is a 3-letter word that most people forget to use? What if your entire life story, the one where you gave up on the guitar, the one where you decided you weren't a math person, the one where you stopped trying to fix that relationship, could be rewritten by simply adding a suffix to your self-doubt? We are diving into the magic of yet, the linguistic crowbar that pries open the open loop of your potential and refuses to let it close until you've walked through. Let's step into a daily life situation that millions of us face. It is 9:15 in the morning. You are in a high-stakes meeting and a colleague asks for your input on a strategy that is completely outside your wheelhouse. Your heart rate spikes. In a fixed mindset, your internal monologue screams, "I don't know how to do this. If I speak, they will see I'm a fraud." You go silent. You shrink. You let the opportunity pass because you view your current state of knowledge as your permanent state of being. You are trapped in the now. But the pro-level performer, the person who has internalized Carol Dweck's research, uses a different script. They say to themselves, "I don't know how to do this." Yet, that tiny word changes everything. It transforms a now that is a dead end into a now that is merely a starting line. It acknowledges your current struggle without making it your identity. It's the difference between saying, "I am a failure," and "I haven't succeeded yet." One is an identity you have to carry. The other is a process you are currently navigating. Think about your childhood for a moment. Perhaps it was 2:30 in the afternoon on a Saturday and you were trying to ride a bike for the first time. You fell, you scraped your knee, you probably cried. But did you sit on the pavement and conclude, "I am a non-biker. My genetics clearly do not support two-wheeled transportation"? Of course not. You understood intuitively the power of yet. You knew that falling was just the tax you had to pay for eventually staying upright. But somewhere between being 5 years old and 35 years old, we lost that grace. We started demanding perfection of ourselves at 12-15 on the very first day of a new endeavor. We became, now, addicts. We started judging our long-term potential based on our short-term performance. Dweck's research into a high school in Chicago proved how dangerous this is. They didn't give out failing grades. They gave out a grade of not yet. Imagine if your boss gave you a not yet instead of a needs improvement. Imagine if you gave asterisk yourself a not yet when you looked in the mirror at 7:15 in the morning and didn't like the progress you were seeing in your fitness journey. How do you weaponize this tonight? When you lay your head on the pillow at 10:45 and your brain starts its nightly ritual of listing everything you did wrong today, I want you to interrupt it. When it says, "I'm not a good leader," you whisper back, "I'm not a good leader asterisk yet asterisk." When it says, "I can't get my finances under control," you add, "I haven't gotten them under control yet." This isn't just wordplay, it is a neurological signal. When you add yet, you are literally telling your prefrontal cortex to stay online, to keep looking for solutions, and to remain in a state of growth. You are keeping the loop open, refusing to let the concrete of a fixed mindset set around your feet. As we move into the third lesson, keep this yet in your pocket. Because once you realize that effort isn't a sign of weakness, but the very fuel that powers the yet, you will start to see challenges not as threats to your ego, but as the only way to get where you are going. Stay with me, because at the end of this summary, we are going to tie these linguistic shifts into a master strategy for your entire year. Lesson 3. The Genius Myth: Why Effort is the Fuel, Not the Warning Light. Imagine it is 10:15 on a Tuesday morning. You are sitting in a glass-walled conference room, watching a colleague breeze through a presentation. They are articulate, they are charismatic, and they seem to have an answer for every difficult question thrown their way. As you sit there, a cold, quiet thought starts to circulate in your mind. They are just a natural. I could work 100 hours a week and never be that fluid. You have just fallen into the oldest trap in the human psychological playbook, the myth of the natural. We have been conditioned by movies and stories to believe that greatness is something you are born with, like eye color or height. We love the story of the overnight success because it gives us a comfortable excuse to stay exactly where we are. If talent is a gift from the gods, then our own lack of it isn't our fault, right? But Dweck's third lesson is a direct assault on this comfort zone. She argues that the moment you view effort as a sign of low ability, you have officially capped your potential at whatever level you reached by the age of 12. Let's look at a situation you might face at 4:45 on a Friday afternoon. You are tired, your brain is foggy, and you are staring at a problem that you just cannot solve. In a fixed mindset, this struggle is embarrassing. You feel like a fraud. You think, if I were actually good at my job, this would be easy. You might even start to hide your struggle, pretending you have it under control while you quietly panic. This is because, in the fixed world, effort is for the untalented. If you have to try hard, it means you don't have the stuff. But the growth mindset flips the script entirely. At 4:46, the growth-oriented person realizes that the struggle is the feeling of their brain actually evolving. They understand that effort isn't what you do when you are failing. Effort is what you do that makes you smart. It is the literal ignition of your potential. Think about the greatest icons of our time. Think about Michael Jordan or Jackson Pollock. We see the championship rings and the multi-million-dollar paintings at 11:30 at night during a documentary, but we rarely see the 5,000 hours of ugly practice that came before. Jordan wasn't born a basketball god. He was actually cut from his high school varsity team. He didn't have the stuff at 15 years old, but he had something better. He had a hunger for effort. He practiced until his hands bled. He understood that genius is just a label the world gives to people who were willing to be not yet geniuses for a very long time. When you see someone who is naturally good at something, you are usually seeing the final 10% of a journey that was 90% grit, mistakes, and sheer, unglamorous labor. How do you apply this to your life tomorrow morning at 9:45? You have to stop apologizing for working hard. You have to stop trying to make your achievements look effortless. When someone asks how you finished a project, don't say, "Oh, it was nothing." Say, "I put a lot of hours into researching the best strategies for this." Reclaiming the value of your effort is the only way to build true, unshakable confidence. If your confidence is based on being a natural, it will shatter the moment you hit a wall you can't jump over. But if your confidence is based on your ability to exert effort, you are invincible. You know that no matter how high the wall is, you have the tools to build a ladder. As we move into the next phase of this deep dive, we are going to look at how this obsession with looking smart versus getting better affects the people you care about most, your children, your partners, and your employees. If you have ever felt like you were walking on eggshells trying to maintain a certain image, Lesson 4 is going to be the breath of fresh air you've been waiting for. We are going to talk about the praise trap, and it might just change the way you speak to everyone in your life from this moment forward. Lesson 4, the praise trap, why you're so smart is the most dangerous thing you can hear. It is 6:15 on a Monday evening. You are standing in the living room and your child, or perhaps a junior employee you are mentoring, runs up to you with a finished project. Their eyes are wide, seeking your validation. You look at the work, you see the brilliance in it, and you say those 4 fatal words. You are so smart. You think you are building their confidence. You think you are laying a brick in the foundation of their self-esteem. But Dweck's research reveals a chilling reality. At 6:16, you didn't just give them a compliment, you gave them a prison. By praising their innate ability, you have inadvertently told them that their success is tied to a fixed trait they cannot control. Now, the next time they face a challenge at 10:45 the following morning, they won't think about how to solve it. They will be paralyzed by the fear that if they struggle, it means they aren't smart anymore. They have something to lose, and the only way to protect that label is to stop taking risks. Let's deep dive into your own daily life. Think back to a time, perhaps at 11:30 in the morning during a performance review, when someone praised your natural talent for leadership or sales. For a moment, it felt like a drug. But then, 3 weeks later, when a deal fell through or a team meeting went sideways, did you feel a sudden, sharp drop in your gut? That is the ability hangover. When we are praised for who we are asterisk rather than what we did asterisk, any failure becomes a direct attack on our identity. You start to avoid the very tasks that made you successful because you are terrified of proving the praise wrong. This is how high achievers become stagnant. They become curators of their own reputation instead of explorers of their own potential. They are trapped in a loop of seeking validation rather than seeking growth. Dweck performed a landmark study with hundreds of students. One group was praised for their intelligence, "You must be smart at this," and the other was praised for their process, "You must have worked really hard." When given a choice for their next task, the smart kids chose the easy one. They wanted to keep looking smart. The process kids, 90% of them chose the harder task. They weren't afraid of failing because their status wasn't on the line, their effort was. They understood that the fun was in the climb, not just the view from the top. They were operating at a level of psychological freedom that the gifted kids couldn't even imagine. How do you use this lesson tonight at 7:45 when you are talking to your partner, or tomorrow at 8:30 when you are giving feedback to a teammate? You switch to process praise asterisk asterisk. Instead of saying, "You're a natural at this," say, "I can tell you put a lot of thought into the structure of this presentation." Instead of, "You're so talented," say, "I love the way you tried different angles until you found the one that worked." You are shining a spotlight on the things they can control, their strategies, their persistence, and their focus. By doing this, you are giving them a map they can use again and again, rather than a trophy they have to defend. As we move into Lesson 5, we are going to look at the stretch. Now that you know how to talk to others without trapping them, You need to know how to talk to yourself when you are standing at the edge of your comfort zone. We are going to talk about why seeking validation is the enemy of growth and how to start choosing the path that makes you sweat. Stay with me, because at the end of this journey, we are going to reconstruct your daily schedule to ensure you are never fixed in place again. Lesson 5. The stretch, choosing the edge over the pedestal. Imagine it is 2:45 on a Wednesday afternoon. You are presented with a choice. There are two projects on your desk. The first is something you have done a dozen times before. You could finish it by 5:15 with your eyes closed, and everyone would tell you what a natural you are. The second project is a mess. It involves a technology you don't understand, a team you haven't managed, and a high probability that at some point you are going to look absolutely clueless. In a fixed mindset, this isn't a choice, it's a threat assessment. You choose the first project because your primary goal in life is validation. You want to stay on the pedestal where people think you are perfect. But as you sit there at 3:30, clicking through tasks you already know how to do, something inside you is quietly withering. You aren't getting better, you are just getting older. Dweck's fifth lesson is about the stretch, the conscious decision to value growth over validation. It is the realization that if you are the smartest person in the room, you are in the wrong room. Let's look at your daily life through this lens. Think about your gym routine at 7:30 in the morning, or perhaps the way you practice a hobby at 8:45 in the evening. Do you stay in the comfort zone where you look good, or do you seek the stretch zone where you look awkward? Most of us are terrified of the awkward phase. We want to go from beginner to expert without the messy middle. But the messy middle is where the neural connections are actually made. When you choose the stretch, you are telling your ego to sit in the backseat. You are acknowledging that looking smart is a cheap prize compared to becoming capable. People with a growth mindset don't just tolerate challenges. They seek them out because they know that a day without a stretch is a day of stagnation. They are in an open loop of constant evolution, always asking, what is the thing I can't do yet that I'm going to try today? Think about the world of professional sports or high-level performing arts at 9:15 on a game day. The performers who stay at the top aren't the ones who only practice what they are already good at. They are the ones who spend hours on their weaknesses. They deliberately put themselves in situations where they might fail in front of their coaches. Why? Because they know that validation is a stagnant pool, while growth is a running river. If you spend your life seeking validation, you are essentially asking the world to tell you that you are already finished. But if you seek the stretch, you are telling the world that you are a work in progress, and that is where the real power lies. A person who isn't afraid to look unsmart is a person who can eventually learn anything. How do you use this tonight? When you are looking at your to-do list for tomorrow morning at 8:15, I want you to find the stretch. Find the one task that makes you feel a little bit of imposter syndrome and move it to the top of the list. Don't do it to prove how good you are. Do it to see how much you can learn. When you find yourself in a conversation where you don't understand a term or a concept, don't nod along to look informed. Stop the conversation and say, I don't know that yet. Could you explain it to me? That moment of unsmartness is your greatest opportunity for a breakthrough. As we move into Lesson 6, we are going to look at how this mindset affects the way you lead and the way you handle the success of others. We are going to talk about the CEO disease, a condition that has destroyed massive corporations and personal reputations alike. We are going to learn how to keep your ego from becoming your own worst enemy as you climb higher. Stick with me, because we are approaching the final pieces of the puzzle that will bridge the gap between knowing the growth mindset and living it every single day. Lesson 6. The CEO disease, when your ego becomes a ceiling. Imagine it is 11:45 on a Tuesday morning. You have finally reached the summit of your current career path. You are the manager, the business owner, or the lead expert in your department. People look to you for answers at 2:30 in the afternoon, and they rarely challenge your perspective at 4:15. This is the moment where most people catch a silent, psychological infection that Dweck calls the the CEO disease. It starts when you begin to value your own greatness more than the growth of your organization. In a fixed mindset, being the boss means you have already arrived. You feel the need to appear infallible. You start surrounding yourself with yes men who validate your genius, and you begin to view anyone who offers a dissenting opinion or a better strategy as a personal threat to your authority. This is the open loop of the ego, a dangerous cycle where you stop learning because you are too busy being right. Let's look at this in a daily life situation. Think about a time at 5:45 in the evening when a junior colleague suggested a new way to handle a client, or perhaps your partner suggested a different way to manage the household finances. If you felt a sudden flash of defensiveness, a "who are they to tell me how to do this" sensation, you were experiencing a symptom of the CEO disease. In a fixed mindset, your status is a shield. You use your past successes as a reason to stop trying in the present. This is how once great companies like Enron or Chrysler hit rock bottom. Their leaders were so obsessed with maintaining the image of being the smartest guys in the room that they ignored the warning signs of a changing market. They were so busy defending their pedestals that they didn't notice the ground was shifting beneath them. Now contrast this with the growth mindset leader. At 10:35 in the morning, this person is actively seeking out people who know more than they do. They don't want to be the smartest person in the room. They want to be the most curious person in the room. They view their leadership not as a destination, but as a platform for collective learning. When a mistake happens at 4:45, they don't look for someone to blame to protect their reputation. They ask, "What did we miss, and how do we build a better system?" They understand that their value isn't in their natural talent, but in their ability to foster a culture where everyone feels safe enough to stretch. By choosing to be a student of their own business, they ensure that the organization never stops evolving. How can you use this tonight at 7:15 or tomorrow at 8:45? You start by practicing intellectual humility. The next time you are in a position of authority, I want you to intentionally invite criticism. Ask your team or your family, "What is one thing I'm doing that is making your job harder?" Or, "What is a perspective on this problem that I haven't considered yet?" This forces you to step off the pedestal and back into the growth zone. It signals to your brain that your identity is tied to your evolution, not your status. By curing the CEO disease in your own life, you open up a massive amount of mental energy that was previously spent on ego defense. As we move into the final lesson, we are going to look at the choice. This is where we tie everything together. We are going to talk about how to live in a state of constant beta, never finished, always improving, and completely free from the fear of failure. Stick with me until the very end, because the conclusion of this summary is where we turn these theories into a concrete blueprint for your new reality. Lesson 7. The conscious choice, living in the state of constant beta. It is 11:59 on a Sunday night. The house is quiet, the lights are low, and you are standing at the threshold of a new week. This is the moment where the theory meets the pavement. You have spent the last 6 lessons deconstructing your internal architecture, but now comes the most vital truth of Dweck's work. Mindset is not a destination, it is a recurring choice. You do not simply become a growth mindset person and live happily ever after. Instead, you are a complex ecosystem of both mindsets. There will be times at 9:15 tomorrow morning when you feel expansive and brave, and there will be times at 4:45 tomorrow afternoon when you feel defensive, small, and fixed. The 7th and most powerful lesson is about learning to recognize those fixed mindset triggers and making the conscious, pro-level decision to pivot. It is the art of living your life in constant beta, a software term for a product that is never finished, always being tested, and perpetually open to improvement. Let's look at a deep dive situation in your daily life. Imagine you are at 12:30 in the afternoon, sitting across from someone who is younger, faster, or seemingly more talented than you in your specific field. Your fixed mindset persona, yes, we all have one, starts to whisper. It tells you that this person's success makes you a has-been. It tells you to find flaws in their work to make yourself feel better. It tells you to stop trying because the natural has arrived. This is your open loop of insecurity. In this moment, you have a choice. You can let that persona drive the car, leading you into a bitter, stagnant afternoon, or you can name that persona. You can say, "Ah, there is my fixed mindset Fred again, trying to protect my ego because he's scared." By numbing the trigger, you distance yourself from it. You regain the steering wheel. You can then ask the growth-oriented question, what does this person know that I can learn? How can I use their speed to increase my own? This lesson is about the long game. Think about your life at 6:45 in the evening, 5 years from now. If you choose the fixed mindset, you will likely be in the same place, perhaps with a slightly higher title but with the same set of skills and a much higher level of anxiety about being found out. But if you choose the growth mindset, if you choose to be in beta, you will be a completely different person. You will have a library of yets that have turned into dones. You will have a trail of stretches that have become your new comfort zone. You will be someone who views a 9 out of 10 failure not as a tragedy, but as a 9-step masterclass in what not to do next time. You become a person who is unstoppable, not because you never fail, but because you never let a failure define the end of the story. How do you use this starting right now at 10:21? You have to realize that you are the narrator of your own biography. When you hit a snag at 8:15 tomorrow morning, don't just react, observe. Watch your brain try to categorize the event as good, bad, or smart, dumb. Then intervene. Use the yet. Embrace the effort. Praise your own process. Step into the stretch. Defeat the CEO disease. And most importantly, remember that every single second is a fresh opportunity to choose growth. You are watching this summary till the end because you know that good enough is the enemy of great, and great is just a growth mindset that refused to quit. As we close this deep dive, your next step is simple but profound. I want you to identify one fixed mindset trigger you encounter daily. Maybe it's a specific meeting, a certain type of feedback, or a particular person's success. And I want you to write down your growth response for it right now. The conclusion: your life in constant beta. As we wrap up this deep dive at 11:59 on a Sunday night, remember that you are standing at the ultimate crossroads of your potential. You can walk back into the fixed world, a world where you have to be perfect at 9:15 tomorrow morning, where every effort feels like a sign of weakness, and where the word fail is a permanent stain on your identity. Or you can choose to live in constant beta. You can be the person who adds the word yet to every struggle. You can be the leader who kills the CEO disease by inviting criticism at 2:30 in the afternoon. You can be the person who values the stretch over the pedestal. If you found value in this breakdown and want to keep building the psychological toolkit of a high achiever, make sure to hit the subscribe button right now. By joining this community, you are committing to a life of continuous growth. To take your focus to the next level, you need to watch our next summary on Deep Work by Newport. It is the perfect companion to a growth mindset, showing you exactly how to apply your new perspective to produce elite-level results. If you are ready to own this masterpiece and highlight every page for yourself, click the link in the description to grab your copy of Dweck's Mindset. The clock is ticking toward 8:45 tomorrow morning. Which version of you is going to show up?